That's the sound of happy birthday. Drivers all over the state laid on their horns at 11:35 this morning. That's the exact time New Mexico became a state 100 years ago. The rail runner got in on the action too. The train parked at the Alvarado Transportation Center sounded its horn for 30 seconds. We're told that's when it was announced New Mexico had become a state a century ago, that people who had cars honked, the ones who didn't danced in the streets. The celebration continued in Santa Fe, where the governor cut a special birthday cake at the Roundhouse. There were also mariachis and mascots. The new Centennial Stamp was also finally revealed. It's a forever stamp, so it will be good for another 100 years.
Well, it goes without saying that New Mexico has changed dramatically over the past century. When we became a state, we were little known and we had just a few 100,000 people. Now, with more than 2 million people, national labs, a rich culture, and even space aliens, we have much to be proud of, even if some Americans think we're still a foreign country. Here's News 13's Alex Tomlin with a look at the way we were and are.
Picture it, 1912. The streets of downtown Albuquerque, dirt. Horse and buggies wait to unload at the local warehouse, and men in three-piece suits chat outside the local store. Oh, how far we've come, New Mexico. We decided to delve into the past with the help of state historian Rick Hendricks. The ink from President Taft's pen was barely dry on the proclamation for statehood when William McDonald took the helm as governor. A rancher by trade, he laid the groundwork for our statehood.
He was a man of great honor and integrity.
His great-grandson, Sterling Spencer.
He was part of the group in 1910 that started the Enabling Act to go ahead and make this a state.
Spencer, who now runs the Carrizozo Ranch McDonald started, says his advice this birthday?
People need to reflect on the past and see how people met challenges.
So let's look back. Here are just some of our big moments. Everyone loves green chili, right? The state's #1 crop blossomed into the perfect strain right after statehood.
If you eat a chili relleno in New Mexico, you're eating it because of the research that Roy Nakayama did.
The honeymoon of being the 47th state ended abruptly in 1916, thanks to Pancho Villa's raid from Mexico.
When the Villistas attacked Columbus, New Mexico in 1916, to some extent that really sort of put a break on the euphoria.
Route 66 blazed the trail through the state when it was built in 1926. This picture from the time shows a streetcar rolling down the now historic highway in Albuquerque. The 1940s and World War II brought a massive influx of people and money, changing the land of enchantment forever.
Most historians would agree that the single most important thing that happened in New Mexico from 1912 to today was the explosion of the atom bomb in '45.
These pictures from the Los Alamos Historical Society show the brains behind the bomb and its historic Trinity test on July 16, 1945. Hendricks says New Mexicans gave their best during the war.
And some of the contributions that we made were quite remarkable. The Navajo code talkers.
And New Mexico soldiers made up a large part of the infamous Baton Death March. Then came something New Mexico is synonymous with: the claim aliens landed in 1947 in Roswell.
The incident at Roswell it's been big for tourism.
In 1972, the state went aloft. The first balloon fiesta took flight in Albuquerque. Then in 1980, the deadly two-day riot at the state prison shook New Mexico.
It was brutal. It exposed very dangerous conditions in this prison and as you suggest, in prisons in general. You know, and a promise was really made to the New Mexico people that something like that would never happen again.
The 90s and early 2000s were about growth and innovation.
New Mexico was a pioneer in aviation history.
And in 2007, officials broke ground on the Spaceport. The space tourism program will launch citizens into the final frontier next year. Hendricks says one of the most important things to happen in the state in the past century just occurred.
I now have the privilege of being your governor.
And I think for a state that got off to a stumbling start with women's rights, it's a very positive step forward.
So here's to the next 100. Alex Tomlin, KRQE, News 13.
So much more too, but you know how we know we really have arrived? We were a category on Jeopardy tonight, New Mexico.
Huge.
Great for us.
Very nice.